Hello and welcome back. I am Queer Age CEO and this is Entrepreneur Beginnings. Today we are going to be meeting with, uh, we're going to be meeting with Martin, and he is the founder and the CEO of Financial Heart Space. Uh, Entrepreneur Beginnings is dedicated to sharing the real story of how entrepreneurs got to where they are today and just those beginning stages of where they were. They tell us the stories of how it was, the struggle, the joys, and what mattered most at that time. So today we get to speak with Martin, which we're looking forward to. Uh, you will be able to download. Oh, You'll be able to go to my website, www.corporatediagnosticcenter.com, who is sponsoring this show. And if you want to join us for our grand opening on January 3rd of 2021, you would be able to enroll in a sweepstake to win a business suite, which includes an incorporation in one of our 50 states and corporate verification, plus a lot of other business services. So make sure to visit us at www.corporatediagnosticcenter.com. And hi, Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty. Can you see me okay? It's gotten a little dark out here on my porch, but I think we'll be able to make it. Huh?
Yes, I just saw a little bit of lightning there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we got a thunderstorm coming in right now, and can you hear it?
Yes, we all did.
I guess that's one of the voices of God, I reckon. Huh?
I love it. That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit about so where are you living? Where are you from?
I live right now. I live in West Orange, New Jersey, just outside of New York City.
Okay, excellent. And where's home?
I grew up in Southwest Georgia in a little town called Albany, Georgia. However, I've been here, and I left Albany, Georgia when I went to college, but I've been in New York City for a little over 40 years in the New York City area.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
I love
I'm a New Yorker now more than
that's
anything.
that's wonderful. I love Georgia. My spouse and I were just talking about where we were gonna go for my big 4-0 in a few months here. And we were like, do we go to New York? And I was like, I don't know if I'm that sophisticated yet. Like, I don't know if New York, if I can handle New York. I
I
could go
know
to Georgia.
you got to be pretty sophisticated to come here.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to have you here. And so you are from Financial Heart Space. I love that we met on LinkedIn, right? And so that group that we were a part of, I've watched you. I've gone to your lives, and I'm just like, wow, I'm really like it. I've always enjoyed hearing what you were saying, and I always
Thank you.
try to like engage as much as possible whenever I see that you go live. And so, tell me a little bit about Financial Heart Space.
I'll be happy to, but what I really like to do is tell you kind of how I got here. I think that's an important thing for your audience to know. Because
Absolutely.
for someone like me who goes out now as a spiritual teacher and a prosperity mindset coach, uh, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to create a world of abundance and prosperity by showing up with love and gratitude. And what I'm doing is I'm a $7 million CEO building a $7 million enterprise. And I haven't always seen myself that way. I probably spent most of my life seeing myself as $100,000 CEO trying to make $1 million for myself. And even in times like when I failed back in 2016, even in times when I was making considerably more than $100,000 a year, my imposter syndrome was so loud.
Hmm.
You know what that is that little voice in your head tells you're a fraud, you don't belong here, you're not good enough. So as soon as I got over the 100,000 and started making some real money, it got louder and louder. And then in 2016, when we elected Donald Trump as our president, I went off the deep end because for me, I just said I grew up in Southwest Georgia. He represented all those people who bullied me as a kid, as a boy, because I wasn't a normal boy.
Absolutely.
And
Understandable.
and so I was like, oh my God, and it was like the bullies had just taken over the planet. And so I went into a real dark night of the soul, if you will. And I went from being a very high top producing agent with a big firm overlooking Park Avenue. I was in a big firm, nice Fortune 100 firm, great office overlooking Park Avenue and all that kind of nonsense. I was a wealth manager. I was a traditional wealth manager in those days, and until it all came tumbling down until we elected Trump as the president. And then I went from being a top producer in this firm to actually the edge of bankruptcy. I had friends saying, Martin, you ought to go bankrupt. And I said, well, maybe, and I
Okay.
remember one day I was sitting in home having a real kind of a pity party one day, and I called my therapist and spiritual teacher and told her about it. She listened a little bit. And finally she said, well, you can go bankrupt. I don't recommend it. It's not going to solve the problem. That make you feel better, but it's not
Yeah.
going to solve the problem. You know what you got to do if you really want to solve this, and this is the big one for you, Martin. You got to surrender it to God. And
Absolutely.
I've been a meditator and a contemplative, and I would consider myself a modern day mystic today. I knew exactly what she was talking about, and I'd done it years before when I gave up alcohol. Excuse me. And but this was a big one: giving up my obsession with money. I'd always kept money to myself to screw up, and I had made a real big mess of it. So I knew what she needed me to do, and that was I did it. I got on my hands and knees and said, God, I have made a mess of myself. I made a mess of my finances. I did it. No one else did it. It's me. I take responsibility for it.
Mhm.
And I got really clear about what the problem was, and I said, I know we have a relationship. We've had it for a long time, and I know I'm here to help you, ask you to help me solve this problem. And so I just got on my. I said, because I know if I know you love me. I know we have a loving relationship, and I know that if you help me solve this problem,
Mhm.
I can feel joy again in my life instead of all this shame I have from going through the moment. So I got to tell you, this is kind of crazy, but as soon as I kind of really surrendered it, it's like this like a blanket of love and power kind of filled my body up, and I just all of a
Yeah.
sudden saw the world whole together open up, and my heart opened up, and I just felt this just tremendous amount of power and love and peace.
How long? And you said that was in 2016, right?
That was in 2016. It was almost like being on LSD, which I did back in the days of college. Not quite that day, but it did go into that a few days later. But in that moment, I heard this voice come up. That's kind of how I hear from the divine. I hear it in words. Some people see visions, some people do other things, but I hear words. And she said to me, none of this stuff matters. None of this stuff matters. None of it matters, Martin. All the stuff that you're worried about being important, making lots of money, doing all of this stuff, doing all that stuff. None of that stuff matters. All you got to do is show up with love and gratitude, and
Absolutely.
I will do the rest. And when she said I will, she meant I, the divine feminine, I, who I call now Joy the Wise Woman. So I went skipping off in the universe with her for a few days, and then that completely collapsed, and I found myself even in a darker night. Like the old Martin had died, that guy who had to be important, the wealth manager and all that stuff, and I'd gone back into my essence, and I don't even know who I was. And
Yeah.
that's even scarier. That's even scarier than any of it. But I had the support of my coach and my teacher at the time, and she led me back up to the top, and that's how I created Financial Heart Space. Because what I
Wow.
realized as a financial advisor, traditional financial advisor, when people came
Mhm.
to see us, they always wanted financial freedom.
But
But
they don't know what that is, right? Like they don't know
well,
what they're asking for,
we
or
didn't know either. We
okay.
didn't. We thought it was like showing them how they could save enough money they wouldn't run out of money while they were in retirement. That's what we thought financial freedom was.
Hmm.
But that's not what they wanted. It didn't matter what we showed them. They wanted freedom from their emotional attachment.
Mm.
Everybody, gay, straight, whatever. We all have deep wounds of attachment that relate ourselves, our worth to our net worth, our true worth to our financial net worth.
Hmm.
We are raised in that, and it's all comes out of trauma.
Yeah.
Because think about this: most of us in our culture think about how much, how frequently money was used as a weapon for reward and punishment.
Oh, absolutely.
You do a good job, you make good grades, we'll buy you a new car. Um, and in our gay community, I had a friend that was his parents cut off his funds in college because he came out.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's, in particular in the gay community, money's been used as a weapon for, of reward and punishment most of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually
And
never thought about it like that. That is a
yeah,
very,
so
yes.
there's two things going on all the time. Maybe at one level we're thinking, oh, I'd love to have lots of money in my life, but at the subconscious, you say, I don't want anything to do with that. It is painful. It is traumatic. They have lots of drama around it. The last thing they want in their lives is more money because there's more headache and more problem and more pain. So you've
Hmm.
got this internal conflict going on inside you around money. It's all about your negative relationship to money around scarcity.
Martin, can you repeat that part? You said it's all about the money is about power and pain. What did you say?
I don't, you have to go back a little further. I said a lot of what I said. You can't tell me what did I say.
No, you just said that what money represents is the
Oh, what I was saying was this: most of us, we live in a conflict. There's an internal conflict in us. Mainly, it's the ego shadow telling us we're not good enough and we're not smart enough, we're not worthy. You know that part of you got one of those in your head. Sometimes it
oh
attacks
yeah.
you all the time, tells you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, worthy enough, blah 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 blah. Blah. That's called the ego shadow.
Mhm.
Everybody's got one, and it drives us all crazy, and it's always barking at us all the time.
Oh yes. I
And
agree
what it's
100%.
doing is it's called the shadow because it's the opposite of the light. It's not even real. It's a shadow. We are the light of the world. We are the creative light of the universe. But we create a shadow so we can bounce ourselves, we can reflect off of it and see what we're bumping up against. We can see our own, I hate this word, character defaults, if you will. We
Hmm.
can see the things we don't like about ourselves through that shadow. Like I might
Hmm.
lie, I might not tell the truth, I might manipulate to protect myself. Okay, so we we go into that place of looking at the shadow comes in and kind of guides us into heart space.
Hmm. And you know what I liked about when we first spoke, one of the and you brought up the shadow, and you brought up shadow work, and you said one of the things that's important is instead of fighting and fearing that darkness, that shadow, you embrace it and you love it until
Yeah,
you get to that
exactly.
heart
That's
space. Like that
exactly
was
that's
powerful.
exactly right. It's really what the demon cannot stand is love.
Hmm.
And I'll often say something like, don't blame the darkness for being dark. That's its nature. Instead, shine your light on it. That is your nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that will dissolve the shadow. And,
So
and, and you do that by really through self love.
absolutely. I'm going to ask you a question. So just it's actually my first question and I totally just skipped over it. So before this, right? Before this moment, because this is you in all of your growth and your development. So before that, like when I asked you this question, I guess is when I'm like, so before all of this, where were you? Like when did you know you were going to become an entrepreneur? Did that come early in your early days? Did you
Well, in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, I owned a restaurant back in 90. You saw my first business was a restaurant I owned in 1993. And I've gone back and forth from being an entrepreneur to being a mortgage-backed trader on Wall Street, a mortgage banker. I ran mortgage bank, a secondary market for a mortgage bank for a while. I've been in finance a lot, and probably the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, rewarding thing I've ever done. Really didn't have any kind of financial rewards to it, and I would
Mhm.
have to be called into to rescue the food operation at St. Paul's Chapel at Ground Zero after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So I went down. Yeah. My cousin called me. The health department had closed down their. What they had done is they had the little chapel across the street from St. Paul's from Ground Zero, St. Paul's Chapel. It's right across from the World Trade Center. And what they had done, they had put barbecue grills on all the sidewalks surrounding the chapel. And they were just putting out food down there with volunteers giving them out to the rescue workers across the street, the relief workers.
Wow.
And, and they were putting out about 3,000 meals a day there. But the health department came around and said, y'all got to stop this because there was no way to protect the food. No way
What?
to protect the food. Yeah, the health department came in and said, you got to stop this because we can't protect this food here. And
Was the dust still settling too when that
Oh my
happened?
God!
Because
It
how
looked
are
like
you? There's no way you could protect it. Everybody needs to
no,
still
no, that
eat.
was the point. That was the dust still settling. It was thick as oil down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I
So
remember
they were
that.
like, you can't just have food out here and give it to people to eat. You're going to kill them. And they were concerned about potential deliberate contamination. I mean, we just had people fly into the World Trade Center. Who's to say somebody's not going to stick some stuff in some hamburger meat and put it? You know, we didn't know. So
Yeah.
you cannot have this operation. So they called me, and I had just closed my restaurant 10 days earlier, Bassett Coffee and Tea Company, and I had a certificate to sell food. And so I went down there and opened it up back, reopened it back in my license, under my license. And we started out with 200 hamburgers and hot dogs under my license and 600. And before you know it, I was putting out 3,000 meals a day. Everything's coming from a licensed vendor, not mine, because we didn't have a kitchen. But what I did is I oversaw the safety of the food, and I did that for 9 months. I was actually asked by Trinity Church to take on that leadership role in the relief effort. And that was quite an honor, I'll tell you.
Wow, that's a huge honor, and thank you for doing that because that's one thing you don't think about, right? And I just the second you said about the food, and I could see the health department freaking out because it was so thick, it was so thick. Just watching them, and
Yeah,
that
it was
didn't
pretty.
settle for a very long time. So
It was pretty disgusting. A lot of people died. A lot of people who I worked with died because they didn't. I go every year to the Mount Sinai. I'm part of the early responder fund that checks us out every year. And I'm fortunate, knock on wood, go every year and get a full lung, everything check up, and I'm healthy as I can be, thank God, because I was there every day. I was inside the chapel most of the time.
yeah,
But a lot of people that I knew that I served and took care of died from breathing all that stuff.
that's really sad and very, 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 very disappointing.
Yeah.
And I love that, and that's one thing that people don't realize too. I read something that Gabriella, like one of the actresses, had said about giving. When you run out of things to give within yourself, you need to find your passion, right? And I was thinking, I was like, if I didn't believe in my mission, right? And you say the word mission. If I didn't believe in my mission and my drive, I would have given up already, right? I'd have nothing else to fuel that fire. But when you come from a place of heart and you come from a place of passion, and you don't need monetary gain from this because you have that fire in you that keeps you going. And that sounds like what
But
happened with you there.
that's how you create wealth. That's how you create wealth. You don't create. There is not a finite amount of money out there.
Mhm.
We are in an abundance economy. There is plenty of money and resources for us to create a world with everybody. I mean, they just announced about a month or two ago that Oprah Winfrey was worth $2.7 billion.
Mhm.
She created that out of thin air,
Yeah.
and she created a huge enterprise. That's $2.7 billion of commerce out there she's created for the betterment of the world.
Yeah.
That's how real wealth is created. And we got all the resources we need within ourselves to do that. And you're doing it and I'm doing it. That's what this is all about.
I love that you brought up Oprah. So just, I know the show's about you, but like for just a second, my life goal before Oprah's show had ended was to write a book. I wanted to write a memoir to be on one of Oprah's, her top 10 books. I had always wanted to just see my book at like Sam's Club, with Oprah's little label or her symbol on there that it was Oprah's choice. Oh, I never got that opportunity, but that's okay.
I think she's still got her.
The
She's got her
magazine does it. Yeah, her
network.
magazine does it still. It's not the same though. If I don't get to talk to Oprah, I'm never gonna write a book.
I think books are great they're great for a lot of reasons. But
Absolutely. Didn't you write a book, or do you have a book?
I wrote an ebook called during the pandemic called what is it? The Small Business Guide to Thriving During Challenging Times.
Ooh, I like that.
It really talks about, I mean, as a spiritual teacher, what I teach and coach about are how to apply spiritual principles to solve problems, to solve financial problems. And
Hmm.
I gave a book to you called The Heart Space Method for Problem Solving. And that's based on the same spiritual principles of 12 step.
Ah,
And it's basically three principles, three steps. It's you got to own the problem. You got to say, "This is my." I got told my story earlier when I owned the problem of my financial downfall. You got
Hmm.
to own the problem. You got to take responsibility for every problem. You got a problem. You got to say, "I created it. I
Yes.
can't solve anybody else's problem. I can only solve the ones I created." Then you got to get real clear about what the problem is. So part of the workbook is to really break the problem down into like, what is the facts, what are the feelings, what are the judgments, what's the impact on you, and where did this problem come from? It comes from our shadows beliefs. So I give you a whole list of what are the shadows beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not, I'm incapable. People don't love me. No matter how hard I tried, it never worked. All these crazy things that our shadow makes up about ourselves and lies to us is always trying to validate. That
I
make
see. I
sense?
see. You know, if I ever had, if I did, well, when I read your book, actually, I want to read it this weekend. But if I literally go through this, I have a lot of facts. My problem is I have a voice that doesn't matter how many facts I'm spewing at you. It's very emotional, so people don't respond well to that because they think it's all emotion, right? They think these are my feelings that I'm talking about. I'm like, no, these are my facts. I just have a very animated voice.
Well, actually, you be careful with that because and they'll go through the workbook because we human beings. That's why it's so important to dissect the story.
Yes.
If you're coming out with a lot of emotion, you got a lot of feelings in there. So you may not be saying feeling words, but if you're crying, I know you're telling the story from a place of sadness.
Did you see me ugly cry on national television yet?
I
Because
don't
that day
know.
will come. Like mascara will be running.
Whether
It will
you
be a mess.
whether you're saying your emotions or not, you are discriminative. So you got to say,
Absolutely.
how did these facts make you feel? They made me feel so sad. I wanted to cry. That's all we're saying. And then you say, and you say, well, what's the story you made up? And this,
Yeah.
whatever the story you made up about it is just a story. You make up one story, I make up, but anyway, you break it all down, and the
Yeah.
final part of it is you surrender it to God. I give you a format for a surrender prayer, and and how to fill it out, and then you use that prayer, and you'll be surprised. It works every time, 100%.
Well, I'm gonna do it this weekend, and then would you mind if I left you a review? If I send you a review about it?
But even matter of fact, you start doing it, and if you run into problems, give me a direct message, and I'll walk you through the rest of the process.
Okay.
Once
I
you do it,
know.
once you
Yeah.
do it once, with somebody kind of guiding you through it, it's pretty easy. If you've never done any shadow work before, it might be a little, might not, it's be kind of hard to might be hard to comprehend. I don't know.
I'm actually pretty intuitive. I think I'm pretty self. I mean, I have a PhD from Google that I'm waiting for them to send to me. They haven't mailed it, but one day they will. So I'll Google my way through this.
Just try and see how you know. I'm just telling you, I'd love it if you did it just by yourself and you got that you say I got this one. This is great.
Absolutely.
Be happy for that.
So just to go back, so like, and the reason why this is like one of the basis of my show, right? Is that because so for me, when I became an entrepreneur, I honestly didn't even know I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what I was stepping into. I just thought that, hey, I want to start a business. It's $209, and I'll wait on a year, and I'll create my whole business plan. That is not what happened. So for you, because you have way more experience than me. I think it's important for the next generation that may hear this to see what it really does take from then, from when you did it. So when was that moment when you were like, I'm gonna take life in my own hands and be a business owner? Was it the restaurant? Was it like, or was it something
Uh,
before that triggered you?
Different. When I was a little boy, I wanted to own my own business. I was always kind of an entrepreneur as a kid.
And that's important to know too. I like
I
that.
was always got. I didn't just have a lemonade stand. I built a putt golf course next to my house and sold tickets. I mean, I was always kind of an entrepreneur. I will tell you what I this is the important part of the story is this. There are a lot of choices I made because I was looking for success and money. They weren't made
Mhm.
out of passion. And that's what I think a lot of us do. I wanted to make sure I had a real deep belief, big shadow belief that if I wasn't rich and make a lot of money, my mother, I wasn't lovable. That's my deep shadow belief. So I made a lot of decisions along the way. When I became a CPA, I'm a terrible accountant. I hated it. But it was like that was a job that was prestigious, and it meant making money. So that's
Mhm.
I followed that path, and then I got into wealth management. And that was kind of fun. I liked it when it was kind of sexy and I was buying and selling stuff. That was actually kind of fun because it was kind of entrepreneurial. It was very it was almost like being cowboy. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed trading. That was fun. I enjoyed buying and selling mortgage-backed securities. That was
How many years? Can you do this in years so you can paint everybody a picture? Because sometimes people don't realize sometimes you're in things for 10, 15, 20 years
I'm
and then you
67.
start over.
Yeah, I'm 67. So I mean, I started out as a CPA in an accounting firm, and then I moved to New York when I was 27, and I worked. And then I went to work in mortgage back in the mortgage business. I went in and started trading mortgage backed securities, and that was probably my primary profession for most of my life until I took a 10 days in the middle of that and opened a restaurant with my then boyfriend called Bassett Coffee and Tea Company.
Yes.
So in 1993, I left. I left being in the mortgage business, and I went and opened up a restaurant with my boyfriend at the time called Bassett Coffee and Tea Company. We had a nice run for about 8 years until it closed. And like I said, in September 2000, in August of 2001, just before 9/11, we were only 5 blocks from the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
So I was really familiar with the area. And then when all that ended in 2003, I went back into the mortgage business
Hmm.
for 2 or 3 years, and then stayed there for a little while. Then that began to see the writing on the wall. That began to crumble, and
Yeah.
that's when I got into the wealth management business. And I went to work for Guardian Life, and I worked with strategies for wealth. And I like that because they taught me all about how to run a people first, profits will follow company. They were the most highly performing of all the Guardian agencies. They performed the higher than any other one, and it was all because of this people first, profits follow philosophy.
I love
Then,
that.
and then I got kind of bought away from them by another big firm. I won't mention any names. And but they wanted me because of my high profile visibility as a gay man. At the time, I was really involved with the human rights campaign. We were trying to get marriage equality, and I was the HRC gala chair. So I was a pretty big name out there in the world of gay rights and in our community. And they wanted my market share. They didn't want they wanted
Mm,
me. They all came, but that all came obvious when it all came tumbling down in 2016.
yeah.
But that's kind of the story. And then and as a trader and that was entrepreneurial. I mean, while I worked for a big firm, I pretty much ran my own book of business and my
Yeah.
own accounts. So,
And
but it
that's
was
important for people to know. And that's one of the things that people don't realize is that so like brokers and people that work in these industries, you are that entrepreneur spirit is what drives you to get those clients because they are your clients and they are, you build this reputation over years. But the reason why it was important for me for you to say your timeline is for the simple fact that there are people out there that don't realize that it doesn't matter if you're 60 years old if you have that drive in you to start something today and become an entrepreneur and do that bakery you've always wanted to do or do that clothing line that you wanted to do, like it's never too late to start today, right? And I believe that what you represent to me is that it's never too late to keep going and to build upon the dreams that you've had and build even bigger dreams. So that's why I was
yeah,
asking you that.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, why should you go through hell for 67 years like I did when you can actually start enjoying your life when you're 25? I mean, I don't use me as an example. I was stupid. I should have really followed my dreams when I was younger instead of chasing dollars and stuff like I was doing. But I had to learn those lessons. I mean, I couldn't. Looking back on my life, I am grateful for every experience, especially the most challenging ones, because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today if I had not experienced those things.
Absolutely. I believe in
If I
that
had not gone through that
100%.
dark night of the soul, and if I didn't have this deep relationship with the divine, I couldn't do this well.
Yeah.
Not at least that the way I do it. So wherever you are, the ways to use, if you've got an entrepreneurial spirit within you, which you have, the longer you try to squash it down, the louder it's going to become. And you to the point where you might, like to me, you might find yourself at the edge of bankruptcy. I prefer you not go that far. But I'm just going to say this: whatever that story, if you got something you want to do and you want to live big, now is the time to do it. And you're not doing it for you, by the way. That's the big thing, is when you realize an entrepreneur is not out there. It's not about me. It's about me being in service and me allowing myself to be a vehicle to the divine to produce something in the world for the betterment of others.
Absolutely. I was speaking to another entrepreneur recently, and he was having a really bad day. And I said, "Do you know what keeps me going on these bad days with no money in my pocket and a hunger that I cannot get rid of?" I was like, the fact that all these sacrifices, all these headaches, all these exhausting, tiring days that just break you, someone will reap the benefits from them. Somebody that's going to need them in a year from now, or
Right.
5 years from now, or even just listening to this podcast. Even if I'm still not doing this podcast in 3 months, if it's out there and somebody needs to hear it, it will be there for them to keep them motivated to keep going. Because if we don't talk about the stories that brought us to where we are today, we just talk about success all the time, we're not really doing anybody a favor. We need to be able to guide people with our
Yeah, but
mistakes.
and that's a very important part. That's why I wanted to tell that story earlier about me. You know, if I come on and start talking about being a prosperity coach and what I'm doing now, if I start from where I am today and go forward, people, I don't really have any credibility.
I see. Yes, yes, yes.
Because it's like, well, he's never had a problem. But if I go back and tell you the story where I was at a failure and bankruptcy, that gives me some credibility
Absolutely.
because I'm real and I am real. But if I don't tell you that story, if I don't tell you the failures, you're not going to believe the successes.
Absolutely. And so that's one of the things I was talking to my spouse about. I was like, so like I keep saying like what if I fail? But you know what scares me even more than failure is what if I succeed? Like that, like I can't even tell you, like the second I say the word succeed, like I'm like I don't think that that's attainable, but like if it did happen, it would freak me out a little bit because it's such a huge, it's not because I'm afraid, I know I am afraid of success because it's such a huge responsibility. It's
Yeah,
not,
it's not.
success isn't
That,
taken lightly.
that's the same side of the same coin of the fear of scarcity.
Whew.
It's the same fear. It's not. It's the same. It's the same coin
Huh.
because it doesn't. It's like you. There's a fear that if I'm successful, the world, something bad's going to happen, and
Totally,
you know,
100%.
and there's a fear that if I fail, something bad's going to happen, and neither one of them are true. But we pick which one you want to believe in to keep yourself stuck and not doing anything. I'd
Yeah,
rather you say, you know what? I don't know when we'll fail or I'm gonna succeed, but I'm gonna take some imperfect action. I'm gonna start climbing this tree.
absolutely.
And
I created this show for the simple fact that I actually needed guidance. I was like, I need to know what other entrepreneurs did, right? And I was like,
oh yeah,
how do I reach out to people? I
I
was like,
did
I'm
it.
gonna,
I did it for the same reason.
yeah,
I
I was
did
like,
it for the
this is
same
like a class. I'm all taking notes because if I need this, somebody else needs this, right? But
reason.
more importantly, like the fact that when I did my business, I kept saying, oh, I'll start next week. I'm not ready. Oh, I don't understand this one thing. I need to study this. I'm not ready. And I kept doing that. And then finally I said, am I ever ready? Am I ever going to be ready? Is everything ever going to be perfect? Absolutely not. So you know what I did? I pressed a
Yeah. Not,
button and I said, we're going to do this
not,
today.
not to the ego shadow. That's what we get stuck. And
Yep,
so when you say, you know what, perfectionism kills creativity,
it
because
does.
there's no such thing as perfect. There's just get out there and do what you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Well, I think and one of the things that inspires me most, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about this, but you know, the fact that you're going to Kenya, what on the like soon, right? You're going to go to Kenya.
Oh, I
I,
talk about that. I'm very excited about going to Kenya.
I mentioned you.
I love the conversation.
I mentioned you in one of my live streams, and I said, you know, I met somebody that is trying to help people with jobs, and we kind of have a very aligning mission. And I was like, do you know how expensive it is to get a computer? He's gonna fly out there and give these people a computer. So like, how do we figure out how to get him more computers to stick in his bag? And then I was like, I wonder how heavy these are. And I was like, maybe we should weigh them and ask him how much his bag can weigh. Like literally, we've had this whole conversation for
I
you.
weigh about 4.5 pounds, and I can take 50. I got room to take two 50-pound bags. So
Okay, perfect.
I got room for some computers. You get me some computers, and I'll be glad to take them for you.
Okay, perfect. So we can still give you computers.
But since you asked, let me tell you. Let me just talk about an entrepreneur and talk about you get ready. Hold on, because when you really surrender to it, the universe is wildly exciting. And I'm going to tell you what I found out. So I have this, if you want to say it, I have an avatar, kind of an ideal client. It's a CEO working with a big company, and he's stuck and he needs some help getting somewhere. Like maybe he's given up his whole life for the company. Now he resents it. And so he needs to get unstuck from that so he can be a better performer, better husband, all those kind of things. That's kind of what I would describe as my ideal client, my avatar, if you would, to some degree. But that's a big degree. High profile business people.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, back in the end of August, just before I started teaching a class, a 21-day thing on how to get your presence out here in social media by going live every day, these LGBTQ asylum seekers living in refugee camps in Kenya asked to join my Facebook group. And of course I said, sure, come join my Facebook group. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing a Zoom on how to get your name out there on the world free on Wednesday. Come join us, and here's the link. Join us on Zoom. Well, I'm going to tell you, about 5 of them showed up.
Wow.
Ready to learn. I mean, really ready to learn.
That's a lot, by the way. 5 people to show up. Yes, that's a lot right away for a group of people that you just met.
They showed up because they had somebody who finally was listening to them,
Mm-hmm.
And they took the course. And you go to the Facebook now and you read some of the testimonies, it'll make you cry.
Yeah.
About what they got out of those. Well, anyway, when they joined, it took my business to a whole new level of significance.
Yeah.
And that's when it became clear to me. I don't know how, and they don't meet any of my sort of they don't have any money, so they can't pay me. That's not how they're not going to be my direct check to the $7 million business.
Yeah.
But indirectly, there's something about it that tells me it's what's growing. It's growing my business, my enterprise, much bigger than I ever would have thought of myself.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think when I really grounded me in this comfort, if you will, of saying I'm a $7 million CEO creating a $7 million. I have to think like that in order to think big enough. We're going to create something of significance that's going to change the world this big. Yeah. And when they got involved, I'm like, wow, I'm part of something, and you are too, because now I got you. You're in here with me too, by the way.
You have no idea. I am so ready.
So we're creating a movement. I mean, that's my North Star, is to create a world of abundance and prosperity for everybody. I don't care if you live in America or in a Kenyan camp. The same principles of abundance apply.
Absolutely.
Same spiritual principles apply. So I'm going to go over there and use these same principles I teach the CEOs and teach it to these people, and so they can get the hell out of those damn camps and begin to make a good life for themselves.
And that's one of the things that people don't realize, right? And so, like, I was having a conversation with one of my newly appointed directors in the Philippines for my marketing campaign for DK International Corporation. And so she said, I was like, hey, what happened to this one applicant, because I cannot put him in my system? And she said, oh, he's underage, he's not allowed to work. And I said, okay, so that's actually an opportunity. I was like, once your paperwork finishes getting processed and everything is aligned with what we need in the US, I was like, I will encourage you to build a program together with me in the Philippines, so that way we keep him honed in, so that way we can give him the opportunity to get work experience through our organization, so he doesn't get lost in a life of crime, or, like, we want to make sure we keep you honed in and give you that hope that somebody is there for you. And she said, absolutely, I would love to do that. I would say, perfect, let's go ahead and do that, because if we don't do that, if I have the privilege, like you have the privilege, right? We are using our privilege and our expertise and our experience, but we're using our heart to reach out to cultures that most people probably wouldn't think to do. And so, like, I commend you 100%. So, like, when you say you're going to Kenya, I am so excited, because literally before I even met you, I was already in alignment with helping refugees worldwide. And so that's what people didn't know what I was doing.
That's why I was so happy when I ran into you the other day. I was like, oh, well, God, you got to come join our group. We got plenty of work for you to do over here. For us.
Absolutely. And I have to say something to you. My friends in the Philippines that are watching, I'm not talking about you guys, actually, because I know you're not refugees. I'm actually talking about this whole other subsection of my company, because they were just like, wait, what? No. My friends in the Philippines are completely different that I work with, but I want there's Venezuela has 400. I just found out they have 400,000 refugees right now, just that are going through so much. I met a guy that has T-shirts, and I said I would like for you to make T-shirts because his some of the portion of his money goes to the Venezuelan refugees. And then in Haiti, Haiti being the first country where the people of color had taken over and said, no, we will not deal with slavery. We will not do any of this. We're not even going to run away. We're just going to take our power back. I want to be a part of that growth with them. So I'm looking to bring them in as well. So what we do in Kenya together, I'm going to recreate that and take that to Haiti. I'm going to take it to Venezuela. I'm going to take it to all these places. So it's going to be a wonderful journey that we're going to embark on. Well, I'm piggybacking on yours now. You're welcome.
Let's just start with 200 hamburgers and hot dogs and see if we can get that on the.
That's impressive. And you exactly. It all starts somewhere. So
it starts with me with the real reason I want to deliver these goods, and I want to meet Abba, one of the leaders over there I'm working with. But also the larger reason is I want to be able to see the issue from their eyes versus mine.
Yeah,
I'm American. I grew up in Western culture. I see through my lens, which is an American businessman's lens, And I've been places like France, and I've never been any place like Kenya, and I've never been in a refugee camp or Africa. So I really want to go and experience what their experience and see it through their eyes as best I can.
Our next guest on this show, we were supposed to be in alignment today. We had a time zone gap of communication. But he's actually from Cape Town. And so he actually does a lot of work in Cape Town. And that was like and I thought that, wow, the universe just aligns. And he was from a whole nother channel altogether. So I poach people out of different entrepreneur groups, right? I'm like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? Most people ignore me. And then the wild ones, the ones that I really need to be on this show, they're like, yeah, absolutely. Like you're like, absolutely, I'll be there. It took you 72 hours and you were just like,
you want to get on and go live on here on StreamYard and talk about stuff that I'm passionate about? Absolutely. Why would I not? I mean, what kind of entrepreneur is going to say no to that?
Absolutely. So so we have about 15 minutes left. I do want to do a really quick thank you to so if you guys don't know, we are on Restream right now. So Restream, you can stream live on over 30 platforms, and then go ahead and follow the link on wherever you found this station other than the podcast. Go ahead and select that link, and you will get to see the discounts that are available to you. And then also, if you're an entrepreneur, you have two offers. One of them is by Intuit QuickBooks. We're going to give you 40% off of your QuickBooks for 6 months. And then also, if you are ready to start a business, I would recommend doing it in January. So on January 3rd of 2022, Corporate Diagnostic Center has its official grand opening. You can go ahead and visit me at Queer Hispanic CEO, and there is a place for you to join our event. And we will be giving you an incorporation of a C Corp, S Corp, nonprofit, or within one of the 50 states. Plus, we're going to give you business services, which include corporate validation, and also a couple other different amenities like legal services and accounting services as well. So go ahead and visit me at www.corporatediagnosticcenter.com. And if you haven't already followed Martin, I would highly recommend following him on LinkedIn. And that is www.linkedin.com/in/Martin Cowart Coaching, and that's spelled MartinCoaching. So just make sure to go ahead and follow him, and then he will plug you into all the other resources that are available to you. I think it's super. I'm so happy that you're here and sharing your story with us. So I do have two more questions for you. Are you ready for the next question? It's a good one. I mean, this is one of my favorite questions because I wonder what my answer is going to be in 10 years. Like, because I've only been an entrepreneur since August 3rd. And I love to say it because it's super true. I had no idea how to spell entrepreneur, and I was 39 years old. And they were like, "So you're an entrepreneur?" And I was like, "Let me Google that." And even Google was like, "What are you trying to spell, man? Like, we do not know what you're trying to spell." I'm like, "I don't either, but it's what I am now." So in 10 years, I'm really looking forward to answering this question. What are some of the things you wish you would have known, so that you wish you'd known then, that you know now when you started this journey to being an entrepreneur?
It would be what I really, to trust in yourself and have faith and let go. I
So to
mean, I'm
trust in
really,
yourself,
yeah, I'm
yes.
really learning that um, the whole key to this thing is really mastering self love, getting to
Absolutely.
know that intimate part of yourself, the divine part of yourself intimately, so that you really enjoy spending. I mean, it's not just 20 minutes of meditation. It's the fact that you really create such a loving relationship with yourself that you just enjoy spending time like with yourself, watching the birds. I mean that may sound a little strange, but really, the more I spend time with the divine part of myself and getting to know that part of myself, the more powerful I become. And that's why I don't have any hesitation about going to Kenya and what we're about.
Yeah.
Because when you're plugged into the divine, when you're plugged into the connect creative universe, it just ask Oprah Winfrey. There's nothing we can't create.
Absolutely. One of the things I just love about what you just said is that I just posted the other day. I said, if you're having a bad day, go find a body of water, go find a beach, go find a lake, go find a pool. If you cannot find any of those things, please go outside right now, get your water hose, put the water on, and spray it in the sky until you see a rainbow, and just enjoy it for a moment. It sounds silly, but I promise you, it will give you that. It
Yeah,
will. It's There's something more. It's beautiful. It's innate, and once you connect with that part of the divinity that's around you, oh, it's a freedom that everybody deserves to experience at least once a week. You don't have to do it every day. Just once a week. Give yourself that
that's
self love.
that's what I'm trying to say. Once you really start to have to cultivate that relationship, I mean, I kind of live that way. I mean, I feel when I feel more disconnect. I'm more aware of being disconnected than connected. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
connected. I connect every day, so I'm connected all the time. And it's just an opportunity. Like, okay, good. Now I'm finished with all the things I got to do and we'll go fix dinner. I'm just going to sit with the divine for a while. And I just don't even turn on music. I listen to the stylist, and I'm just happy as I can be. I'm just so full of gratitude to be alive and been able to do what I
absolutely.
did in the day. And it's really all about being loving and grateful for your own life and for this wonderful opportunity to live as a human being on this planet right now.
Absolutely. Martin, there's one other thing that I forgot to tell everybody about. I want to make sure that everybody that hears us on our podcast that is streaming everywhere is that Martin does have a workbook, and that workbook is available now. If you go to coaching.financialheartspace.com/LEAD dash MAGNETX18EA2Q7. And then I think it's important, if you want to see what his work is and how that can help you and guide you on your journey as an entrepreneur, I invite you to download that today. And so we are almost out of time, but I want to have the final question of all questions, right? This one's a good one.
I can't wait. I'm on pins and needles.
Okay, perfect. So what's one piece of advice you would like to share to an entrepreneur, to a brand new entrepreneur coming into this world?
Um, just do it. Don't imperfect action and meditate.
Ooh,
Get do what I did. Get a practice and get still every day and get to know your divine nature because that's where all your power is. And your little egoic mind is going to hate it. It's going to have you jumping and doing flips, anything it can to keep you from going there because it knows once you connect with the divine, his life is over. So the best thing I can do is develop a very powerful practice for getting in touch and getting to know the divine part of yourself.
Absolutely. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the book? I think I hijacked that. I kind of do that sometimes. Do you want to
Well,
tell us about the workbook?
the book is a workbook. It's the Heart Space Method for Problem Solving. And it's a three-part book. I think I talked about it a little earlier in the episode, but basically it's three parts it's what I used when I surrendered my money issue with God. But basically it's a three-part workbook that goes step by step by step of owning the problem, getting really clear about what the problem is, understanding where the problem comes from. It comes from my shadows beliefs, and then there's a little template in the back where we can surrender. You create like a little surrendering prayer based on the circumstances, and you pray that prayer, meditate on that prayer from your heart, and the problems in your problem will be solved. God will show you an answer. I promise you. Every
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So again, this is Queer HCEO. This is Entrepreneur Beginnings. We do normally play every Sunday on LinkedIn and several other platforms. However, this was a special day. I wanted to make sure that we spoke to Martin before he ventured off to Kenya to do some amazing work. I think that if you are on LinkedIn, please follow him. He is quite the inspiration. And so if you have any questions, feel free to message us. You can message me directly. If you'd like to be on Entrepreneur Beginnings with Queer HCEO, you are more than welcome to do that. We are at your dash story dash matters at entrepreneurbeginnings.gay. Did you know about the story about the .gay? We'll have to get into that when we have time. But I'm literally all about that because they pick for that domain. Every time I make a payment towards my domain, it goes to supporting the LGBT community, and they change the organization once a year.
That's wow. I love that.
Yeah. So I would encourage you, and if you want, I can get you a domain with the .gay very easily. So yeah. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to we'll do a restream, a replay with restream on Thursdays, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well. All right, you guys. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you for having me.